Pro V1 is the undisputed king of golf balls. Since its introduction in December of 2000, the Pro V1 has been used by more professionals and has won more tournaments than any golf ball in history. As a result of that, there's been a lot of competition trying to bring other balls to take some of that market share away from the Pro V1, other three-piece balls. And in this video, I'm going to compare 4 of the current competitors to the Pro V1. Now you may be asking yourself, does my game even warrant using a three-piece ball like the pros do? And I would say absolutely it does. Everyone can benefit from using a three-piece ball. The benefits of a three-piece ball is it's going to generate a lot more backspin. As a result of that, as you're hitting shots into a green, wherever the landing area is, because of that increased backspin, you're going to stop sooner around your landing area. Especially true when you start having greenside shots where you're trying to chip and get close to a flag. Once you get comfortable with a three-piece ball, you can really start to put some backspin on that ball, and you can really start to get it to check up around the area that you want it to stop. It's just, it opens up a whole different element of the game, and as a result, I would definitely recommend that everyone consider using a three-piece ball. Now, some folks will say, well, slower swingers shouldn't use these three-piece balls because the compression is too high. And I couldn't disagree with that any stronger than I do. The reason I say that is because of the additional backspin, it will actually fly longer given the aerodynamics of a ball. The higher the backspin, the higher the ball will fly and the longer it's going to stay in the air. Now that's also going to shorten your distance a little bit. So if you're going for maximum distance, you want a little bit lower spin, but for most amateurs, higher spin, a higher flight is only a good thing, and I would strongly recommend, even if you are a slower swinger of the golf club, that you use one of these three-piece balls because it generates so much more backspin, and that's really beneficial for your game. So hopefully I've convinced you that you should switch to a three-piece ball. Now let's talk about the 5 balls that are in this roundup. Obviously, number 1, it's the Titleist Pro V1 three-piece ball. This ball is a classic, and it's what all other three-piece balls should be measured against because the performance has been so solid for so many years. Next up is the Snell Prime 3.0. This is a brand new ball from the direct-to-consumer darling that so many people love, and I've never played a Snell before, so I was really interested in including this one in the trial for my own benefit. Next up is the Maxfli Tour. Now, the Maxfli Tour gets a lot of love from My Golf Spy, and I don't know, what your feelings are about My Golf Spy. They seem to emote a lot of very strong emotions from people. I really think they do a nice job for the community and bring up a lot of interesting data and share a lot of good results. But they really love this ball, and I know on their social media channels, they really talk about how this is a very great performing ball, and I was interested to test it. Next up is the Cut Gray, another three-piece ball. It's a fairly recent addition to the Cut lineup, and it's a solid ball, and I wanted to include it. I've done a short about the Cut Gray. I've been really impressed, and I wanted to see how it stacked up against all 5 of these balls. And finally, my favorite, the Kirkland. I played the Kirkland. I've been playing them for several years now. This is the new Kirkland in yellow, and I included a yellow ball in this test because I've read over the years on forums that yellow balls don't perform the same as white balls. I just wanted to get some data to really see, do I see any differences that would make me think that a yellow ball, at least in the case of the Kirkland, does perform any different than any of the other options. To evaluate the balls, I hit lob wedge, 7-iron, and 2 different drivers. I used a 12-degree driver with a regular flex shaft, and then I used a 10.5-degree driver with a stiff shaft just to see if there was any trends that would hold true from one driver to another. Finally, I hit every ball with a putter just to test for feel and sound, and at the end of this video I'm going to give several awards in different categories where I think different balls excel. With regards to the lob wedge testing, I personally think the most important criteria whenever you have a wedge in your hands is the amount of backspin that you're getting out of that particular ball. The highest spinning ball in this group was the Pro V1. it was 300 revs higher than the closest competitor, which was the Kirkland. The next ball was the Maxfli Tour, followed by the Cut Gray, and then finally the Snell came in with the lowest spin. The Snell to the Pro V1 amounted to 900 RPMs worth of difference in backspin, which is, pretty considerable. So if you end up having too much backspin and you want to take some off, maybe the Snell would be a good option. If you want more backspin and you want more checking power, then the Pro V1 or the Kirkland would be really good options as well. When it came to my 7-iron testing, all of these balls performed pretty similarly off of the 7-iron. So the highest spinning ball was the Snell off the 7-iron, and the fastest ball speed that I saw was off of the Pro V1. But the differences were pretty small. In total, off the 7-iron, the 5 balls, the difference in backspin was only 350 RPM, which really isn't a lot. Your strike can influence the amount of backspin much more than that 350 RPM. So it's not a number I would get overly hung up about. The ball speed differed from the fastest to the slowest by about 4.5 miles an hour. And I have to say that I think your strike, or at least my strike, I'm certainly not a swing robot by any means, and I think your strike is going to influence the ball speed pretty much more so than that 4.5 mile an hour from the fastest to the slowest. If you take the average of that, you're talking about plus minus 2 miles per hour, and that's only about 4 yards plus minus, so that's not a huge difference. And I think strike could explain a lot of that difference. With regards to testing with drivers, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I used 2 different setups just to see if I could see any trends in the data. The first driver was a PXG set to 12 degrees with a regular flex shaft, and the second driver was a Callaway Epic Speed with a very stiff shaft set at 10.5 degrees of loft. When it comes to the results of the driver in terms of backspin, there just wasn't much difference between all of these balls. The max difference between the highest spinning and the lowest spinning ball was about 500 revs in both cases. And I really think my strike variation could contribute to that difference more so than really anything else. But there was a couple little trends that I want to be able to share with you. Namely, the lowest, or trending towards the lowest spinning ball in both trials or both tests, was the Maxfli Tour. It really does a nice job of controlling spin off of the driver. Now the ball speed conversation is a little bit more extreme because there was 11 miles an hour difference in ball speed off of the PXG, and there was 9 miles an hour of ball speed difference off of the Callaway. In both cases, the Snell was the slowest ball in both groups. In terms of the fastest ball in both groups, for the PXG, the Maxfli Tour was the fastest ball, and the Pro V1 was the fastest ball off the Callaway. But I will say that those two kind of swapped positions. They were both amongst the top 2 in terms of ball speed. It's just one beat out the other in one test versus the other, which again could be just the human factor of trying to test balls in this way. But ultimately, what I would say is the Maxfli Tour does a really nice job of delivering low spin and high ball speed. If you want a little more spin, but with a lot of ball speed, the Pro V1 did a very nice job as well. Sound and feel off of all 5 balls was pretty similar, with a few subtle differences, but nothing that would make you say, oh, there's no way I could play this ball. I would say that the softest ball in the group appeared to be the Snell. It felt really soft. In fact, I played a round of golf the other day with a fairly new golfer and let him play a few holes with the Maxfli, let him play a few holes with the Snell. And both of us like the Snell on course pretty well because it feels pretty good off the irons, off the driver and everything. But the difference is fairly subtle. It's a little bit more firm when you get to the Maxfli, which is probably the firmest in the group. But again, the differences are subtle. Off the putter, all 5 of these balls feel very similar, and sound very similar, which is a big deal for me because if you've ever hit like a really awful two-piece ball off of a putter and it just clicks right off, that is a really horrible feeling, and it's not something I enjoy, and that would instantly take a ball out of the possibility of use for me. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel pretty strongly about that. So which ball is best? Well, that's kind of tough to say because the thing about a golf ball is it's a very personal decision. It really needs to fit the golfer that is playing that specific ball. So I wouldn't say that a Pro V1 is perfect for everyone. I wouldn't say that the Snell is perfect for everyone. It really just depends what your specific game needs. But in terms of the testing that I did, and from my perspective, what I think is that in terms of a great ball for greenside control, it is the Titleist Pro V1. This ball is fantastic around the greens. It's obviously got a very rich history of having great performance around the greens, and it would be my best for greenside control. However, I would also say as a strong runner-up, the Kirkland performs extremely well, checks up very nicely, and given the price, boy, you just can't beat that. So greenside control, Pro V1 takes it for me, but Kirkland is a strong second place. Best ball off the driver? Well, you may have figured it out based on some of my comments, but the Maxfli Tour, this is a fantastic ball off of a driver. It offers really good ball speed and lower spin. So if those are things that you need for your particular game, especially the low spin piece of this, and when I say low spin, it's a couple hundred RPM. It's nothing major. But this is a firmer, hotter ball, and I can definitely see why My Golf Spy has been pushing this ball so hard. It reminds me a lot of the TaylorMade TP5X, which is one of my favorite balls and is very hot off the driver. And it's a little bit cheaper than a TP5X with very good performance. So if you're looking for something that's a bit of a budget, Maxfli Tour would be my recommendation for a really good ball off the tee. In terms of what's the best value golf ball, well, it's my best friend, the Kirkland. I just can't beat this ball for a little over $1 a ball. It hung right in there with the other 4 balls. It didn't always come out on top, but it typically didn't always come out on bottom either. It was just kind of in the middle of the pack. I really like how much this ball spins up. I don't see a lot of distance loss out of it. It's a really good ball for the price, and I just don't think you can possibly argue that another ball is a better value than this ball on the market right now. In fact, I'd go as far as to say this may be the best value in golf, period. However, as a second place runner-up, this cut gray ball, right now you can get this ball on Amazon for $20 a dozen, $19.95 I think it is. And that's a really, really good price. I mentioned earlier that I used this ball in a short video, not this specific ball, but one of these cut grays in a short video. Well, then I used it on my sim just to practice, record other videos, etc. And I put a ton of shots on a cut gray before the cover failed. So these covers are extremely durable, and the performance is surprisingly close to a Pro V1 in many instances. So for $19.95 a dozen, a great alternative to what is undoubtedly the best value, and that's the Kirkland. And my best overall golf ball out of this 3-piece golf ball study is the Titleist Pro V1. There's a reason this thing is as popular as it is, because it just performs. It does great on greenside. It performs well on mid-irons. It's great off the driver. It feels fantastic off a putter. The cover holds up really well. It's got the best looks within the group. I love the classic thin Titleist logo. It just looks classy. I love the Pro V1. However, it's very expensive, and because of that, I don't play it. If you were looking to play a really good ball that may be a little bit less expensive, the Maxfli Tour would be my first recommendation. After that, I'd probably say the cut gray if you're really opposed to Kirkland's. But again, my personal favorite ball is the Kirkland, and that's what I'm going to continue to play going forward. Well, regardless of what ball you choose, I hope you got some value out of this video, of this roundup of these 5 different balls. I think there's some really interesting information here, and I hope it helps you as you're selecting what ball you want to play. But most importantly, I hope I've convinced some holdouts that you should no longer be playing a two-piece ball, and you should definitely be playing a three-piece ball. It's what's best for your game. Well, that's it from the Golf Nerd. Hit 'em long and straight, and I'll see you next time.